Number 7. Now, this number 8. We need to tackle, Mr. President, you need to tackle our electricity debacle frontally by the following steps. A, aggressive metering. We need to meter, households. There are 43 million households across Nigeria. Of these 43 million households, only about 12 million or thereabouts, are connected, by meters, are metered. Then the question is, how would the industry be attractive, to investors? It won't be. And the electricity sector is the only industry I know that is unable to meter and collect its revenues from its customers. Telcos can, bankers can, every other, even petroleum retailers can collect their revenues. Only, electricity discos can't. So we need to, aggressively embark on a metering process. I know there's several programs with the World Bank. Number 2, aggressive solar power development, especially in northern Nigeria. Look at it now. Currently, 17 states across northern Nigeria has been thrown into darkness because grid collapse. That's the story of Nigeria. And we need to connect, especially this solar power. We need to connect them, give priority attention to special economic zones, industrial hubs, tech clusters, and all of that. Number 3, or C, we need to revisit and complete the Mambila hydropower in the next 3 years. I hope we can do that. And we need to also revisit our coal potentials, coal energy potentials in Enugu and Kogi states. And number 5, unbundle the transmission company of Nigeria, that's TCN. It is the height of folly to think you can have a single entity, running grids and managing grids all over Nigeria. We're going to keep having these grid collapses as we have been having in the past, 10, 15 years. And so we need to unbundle the transmission company, the TCN, and scrap the Rural Electrification Agency. The Electricity Act was passed 2023. If you're still having or maintaining or sustaining the Rural Electrification Agency, then why was the Electricity Act passed when states and local governments can generate their own electricity? Now, everything I've said under this electricity agenda is to the effect that we, by 2027, we're able to distribute 8,000 megawatts of electricity. We have installed generation capacity of about 12,000 megawatts, but the problems of ATC and C losses, the problems of grid weakness, transmission lines weakness, and all other associated weakness, theft, vandalization, make sure that by the time what is generated, gets to the distribution centers, is barely 4,000 we're distributing to homes and businesses for an economy of 220 million people. Something is wrong with us as a nation. And I think we've circled this mountain long enough. It's time, Mr. President, you crack the whip. I advised you last year, but obviously my advice fell on deaf ears. And that's why I said when I started, it seems to me, that you're open to, receiving counsel now. I know I'm not an Harvard graduate and I've never worked at World Bank or IMF, but I can stand my own intellectually with any of these guys from anywhere in the world. And it's been offered to you free. As a patriot, I'm offering these services to you free. This advice, I'm giving it free. No charge at all. The choice is yours. Number 9, Mr. President, the crude oil and gas sector. I did something on this 2 or 4 episodes. I broke down everything that is wrong with that sector. But I'll just summarize. We need to ramp up crude oil production to 2.5 million barrels per day by May next year, or by June next year. And how do you do that? You need to go after pipelines vandals with a vengeance. Those who are, stealing our crude oil by industrial scale. We need to go after them with ruthless, vengeance. If there is a need for us, I think there's a need for us to set up special economic crimes tribunals so that we make examples of some to serve as deterrents to others. If it means introducing the death penalty, I'm in support of the capital punishment for certain crimes, kidnapping, banditry, terrorism, and economic sabotage. These crimes deserve the death, the capital punishment. If we need to do this, to get people to know that if you come into Nigerian waters, break crude oil pipelines and steal our crude oil, you will pay with your life. Until we do that, people won't stop. People won't stop. So we need to do that, Mr. President, because if we have 2.5 million barrels per day crude oil production, most of the problems we're talking about in terms of FX, challenges will be substantially reduced. And then number 10, Mr. President, you need to wage a ruthless war against criminals, terrorists, kidnappers, bandits, etc. Also, and this is very important, you need to wage a brutal war against economic and financial criminals. And for a start, Mr. President, I urge you to instruct the IG and EFC's bosses, the IG of police and the EFCC boss, both Mr. Kayode Egbetokun and Mr. Ola Olukoyede, to produce former Governor Yaya Bello of Kogi State in a week, or you sack them. I am embarrassed as a Nigerian. I am ashamed as a Nigerian that a governor alleged to have embezzled 110 billion naira has been dancing around the EFCC for months now, spitting at our law books, showing the world that he is above the law. And we have institutions of state. I'm ashamed, Mr. President. I urge you, because it is the failure of governance that has actually created the lawless society we live in now in Nigeria. So we need to make examples of economic and financial criminals, governors, senators, ministers, whoever. We need to make examples of them. So once again, Mr. President, I urge you, instruct the IG of police, Mr. Kayode Egbetokun, and the EFCC boss, Ola Olukoyede, to produce Mr. Yaya Bello in a week. Otherwise, relieve them of their duties. They're not competent. And this drama, this shame of a nation, I think it's gone on long enough. I'll take this short break, and when I come back, I'll wrap up with the presentation. Please stay with me.